The Greater Centerville Historians organized in the year 2000. The purpose of the organization is to preserve the history of the Township of Centerville, Cleveland and surrounding area. Gerald O'Neill, Charlie Bauer, Richard Wiegand, and myself, Kathleen Sixel, were the founding members. In 1831, the territory south of Green Bay was sold to the U.S. government by the Native Americans who had title to the land. The consideration was the promise of a reservation in another state. The Township of Centerville was established in 1850. The township had a village called Centreville. The reason for the hamlet's original name of Centerville was, in the days of the Indians, there was a trail along Lake Michigan between Manitowoc and Sheboygan. This heavenly spot was exactly at the halfway mark, so the early white man gave it the name Centerville. In 1849, the village of Centerville was surveyed and laid out in lots and blocks. The village of Centerville was renamed Hika when the Postmaster General informed the village leaders that another Centerville was located in the state. When it became time for Centerville to be renamed, a judge in Manitowoc by the name of Albert Schmidt would take kids hiking. The judge said, "You can't call a town hiking, so why not make it Hika?" Thus, the village of Centerville became Hika. In the early years, Centerville had the vision of becoming a lake port. To encourage ships to dock there, 2 piers were built into Lake Michigan. Many German immigrants arrived by schooners, and the village began to grow. The village had a brick factory, stores, schools, a Lutheran and a Catholic church, mills, saloons, blacksmith shop, and a fire department, and a brewery. When the brewery was built, the settlement began to flourish. But when fire destroyed the brewery, the largest industry, there was no longer a need for the harbor facilities. So ended this chapter of the development of Hika. 2 miles west of Hika, another settlement known as St. Wendel began to grow. It had a Catholic church, a general store with a connected dance hall, and a post office was also located in the complex, a funeral parlor, and at one time a motel. With the clearing of the forest, tilling of the land began. This prompted the exporting of lumber and grains. The farmers of Centerville looked forward to the building of a railway since they had a serious problem transporting their products. In 1873, the Milwaukee, Lakeshore, and Western Railroad was built between the settlements of Hika and St. Wendel and was named Centerville Station. In 1880, Centerville Station was renamed Cleveland after President Grover Cleveland. Cleveland, at that point in time, owes its growth to the fact that the Township of Centerville was a rich farming community, and farmers for miles around would bring products to be shipped by rail or ship. The village of Cleveland had several grocery stores, a furniture store, a funeral parlor, several saloons, Lutheran church, hardware stores, several gas stations, newspaper, photographer studio, several car dealerships, cheese factory, several feed mills, livestock yard, and lumber yards. The biggest business was the Cleveland Co-op, which offered many types of services. With the failing of grain crops, the farmers began dairy farming. With the abundance of milk, another industry began, cheese and butter making. Local cheese factories dotted the countryside. One-room schools were usually built near the cheese factories, so children would have a ride to school when farmers brought their milk. In 1958, Hika, St. Wendel, and Cleveland incorporated into the village of Cleveland. In 1968, the Cleveland Elementary School was built. The Township of Centerville has seen many farming changes, but dairy farming is still the primary vocation. Today, Cleveland is known as the seat of Lakeshore Technical College, which offers an educational alternative to 4-year colleges. An ancient proverb states, When an old person dies, a library burns to the ground. These words were the inspiration for organizing the Greater Centerville Historians. We hope to preserve as many memories as possible.
Special meeting and at LTC, and this young lady will identify herself and give us some directives. Go right ahead, please.
My name is Kathy Sixel, and I would like to welcome everybody for coming this evening. It is February 13th, 2006, and for the sake of history, January was the mildest month in history and the least amount of snow. And we had just a few snow flurries today. The rules are, please raise your hand when you have information to share so that Mr. O'Neill can address you and move his camera so we don't miss any information. Always state your full name. Try and use full names when you're talking about people, because if we use nicknames a couple of years, nobody knows who that is because we're all going to be gone, right? And refrain from speaking because otherwise the visiting picks up on the video. Okay, and the card I sent out, I just asked the ladies here, is the church from 1920. Okay. Correct, ladies?
And I'm going to take a look at a better picture if there is one.
Yeah, there's one in the book.
Could someone pick that up a little bit, please, and I'll take a look at that? Okay, can anybody recall the direction that this picture was taken? Where was the camera located and shooting in what direction?
I think the camera
on the
was
Villeneuve
west
place, on the southwest corner.
The camera was on the southwest corner, huh?
There, yeah.
Okay, and looking to the northeast then?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And we'll get back to this picture later in the evening. And again, that is a view of St. Wendel back, what year was that again, Kathy?
That was St. Wendel Church in the year of 1920.
Okay, and I guess our question of the evening for introductions, and we'll have Kathy start it out, is in regard to Valentine's Day, which is coming up shortly, today being the 13th. And is there any special Valentine that you received or did give at that time, maybe long ago or whatever?
I just remember we had a wonderful Valentine party at school all the time. And the boys would wear a little hat, and we had a big box all decorated, and the Valentines would go in, and then the boys would be the mailmen, and they would deliver the Valentines. It was always a special day.
Okay, very good thought. Thank you. And who do you have here, please?
I'm Irene Dine, and I mustn't add anything special because I can't remember anything.
Nothing special,
No,
huh?
sir.
Very good, thank you. And who do you have here, please?
I'm Mercy Stein, and I don't remember any special Valentines either.
Okay, and who do you have here, please?
I'm Harold Stein. I can't remember what I gave her for Valentine's.
You can't remember that, huh?
Not in the younger days.
Well, you must have enticed her some way. You married her.
We won't go into that.
Okay. And who do you have here, please?
Hi, I'm Alice Mathias. Excuse me. I always enjoyed getting the Valentines. We usually get them from our little neighbor girls.
Okay.
And they make their own handmade ones.
Yes.
Or from years back from the other little kids around.
Okay.
And those are always special.
Very good, very good. And who do you have here, please?
I'm Willard Mathias. The only thing I can remember, I married my Valentine.
Oh, oh, good job. Thank you. And who do you have here, please?
My name is Eugene
Trying to
Moser.
make points again.
There's nothing special.
Nothing special either, huh? Okay. Well, tomorrow is the day. You remember that now, right?
No, Dad.
Okay. Okay, and who do you have here, please?
Victor Schill.
And Victor, anything special on Valentine's at all?
I can't remember too much.
Can't remember too much, huh? Okay. And who do you have here, please?
Marvin Lacroix.
Hi, Marv.
Don't remember anything special.
Nothing special on Valentine's, eh? Boy, it's an unromantic day so far here. And who do you have here, please?
I'm Ruth Lacroix. Marvin and I have been married 57 years, and we've shared lots and lots of Valentine days.
Hey, very good. I think a little congratulations would be in order here. Everybody congratulate you a little bit there. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Thank you. And who do you have here, please?
Melvin Yiddish.
Yes.
I don't remember much of Valentine's Day either.
My goodness gracious.
A couple of snowstorms once.
Couple of snowstars. Okay, that'll do it. And who do you have here, please?
Kathy Wagner,
Hi, Kathy.
and I don't have any special memories either.
No memories either. Okay, thank
Well,
you.
some, but not special.
Not special. Okay. And who do you have here, please?
Walter Kress, your wife usually made something a little better to eat for Valentine's.
Okay. Okay. What, do you remember what any special meal happened to be?
Not really.
No. Okay, thank you. Very good. And who do you have here, please?
Dolores Kress, I got one. When Vernon was in the service, the
Oh.
first year, and it was that sweetheart and everything else, but he never mentioned that after
He
that.
never, once the war was over, he was done, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And who do you have here, please?
Jerry Leonard. The 14th isn't a big day in our life. The 16th is the big day because on the 16th, next on Thursday, now will be our 49th wedding anniversary.
49th. Wonderful. Congratulations
It was
also.
a cold, not a cold, rainy day, cold, windy day.
Ah,
My wife, when you look at the pictures now, her veil was up in the air, like remember the Flying Nun on TV?
Yeah.
That's what she looked like all day, and it was cold. It was so cold that night.
you thought you'd pick a warmer part of the year, huh? Okay, who do you have here, please?
I'm Fred Jacoby,
Yes, Fred.
and Kathy's reminiscence of the country school. I don't know, maybe yours wasn't a country school. That's exactly what we had. We had a very fancy box, and that was a big day when we were little kids.
Okay.
And these are special days by us because it's Valentine's Day, and then the next day is my wife Roseanne's birthday, and the next day is my oldest daughter's birthday.
Oh my goodness,
So-
wonderful.
I used to sweat by the card counter.
I'm sure you did. Oh my goodness, a lot of activity there. And who do you have here, please?
Dorothy Anderson, and we did the same thing in our country school with having the box for the Valentines. But I wanted to say answer to the question.
Yeah.
I made a phone call to my daughter last night, and I said, "This is your Valentine. I didn't send any, and then tonight and tomorrow I'm going to phone the rest of them."
Okay, you know, that's a good thought too. That's a good Valentine. A little verbal one.
Yeah.
And who do you have here, please?
I'm Edith Litzy, and my mother's birthday was on Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay.
And I received in the mail today 4 little hearts that my daughter had made out of soap.
Okay.
And she tied them in a little red netting, and it's for in my bathroom. So.
Well, isn't that nice? Okay, my name is Jerry O'Neill, a videographer, and the only Valentine I recall that I remember is when I was going out with my wife at that time, about 6 months of dating, and I didn't want to give her a red Valentine because I thought, oh, I'm pushing it. So I gave her a yellow one. And I did marry her too, by the way. And what are we going to start with, Kathy?
First of all, we're going to start with my award that I received last
Okay.
month. It was the Merit Award for the Preservation of the History of the Township of Centreville.
Okay. Very good.
Manitowoc County Historical Society. And I will pass it around.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and Charlie Bauer has some questions here.
Yes.
And this is what he writes. I am researching the death of Joe Nenning. Manitowoc Times, November 2nd, 1928, reports that he stepped around a truck. Sheboygan Press, November 2nd, 1928, reports that he stepped around a car driven by Reuben Stolzenberg to convey children home. Manitowoc Pilot, November 8th, 1928, reports that he delivered a message to a bus driver. Manitowoc Herald Times, November 2nd, 1928, reports that he was talking to a driver of a bus containing a number of children. Here is the question. Were there school buses transporting children from Center School in 1928, or was it a truck or a car?
There were no buses then.
No buses, okay.
Okay, that's good.
And was it a bus or a car? Or a truck? A car?
I remember hearing it was a car. It happened right by the gas pumps by Teresa, I guess.
Yeah.
Was he by the gas pumps or something? Yeah.
It was a car, okay.
Well, that's what I remember hearing, but.
All
Okay.
right.
Now Charlie's got his answer.
Okay.
Good.
And then I have some questions. I was doing some research, and it says that the brewery was built in 1840, But it lists the first residence, Mr. Adam is 1847. Weren't there people living around that brewery? Or why the 7 years that there were no people? Any ideas on that?
Well, he was listed as the first resident?
Yeah, the first settler in the village of Hika. And that brewery certainly was in the village of Hika too, or it was before it was the village.
Yeah, well, there was people living.
Okay, we've got a question pertaining to the brewery and a Mr. Adams, apparently who was the first settler, but there's some years of discrepancy. Could you straighten that out, sir?
Well, I don't know exactly.
And could you give me your name?
Melvin Yeaney.
Thank you, Melvin.
I don't know exactly when the village of Hika was formed, but it was real early, before there were any other settlers around.
Okay, thank you. I've got a gentleman here who raised his hand. Go right ahead, sir.
Jerry Leonard. I don't know how accurate this is, but there was a gentleman, a gas man at Kiel, standard man, Al Gartsky. He's passed away now a number of years.
Okay.
He always spoke of having the brewery, his grandparents or uncles or aunts, but they had the brewery in Hika, because when he found out, he was our gas man, that we were down from Cleveland, he had to tell us about that.
All right.
But Melvin is right. If you check history, Hika at one time had a bigger harbor than Sheboygan did.
Oh.
It was more of, it was big.
Oh.
If you check back into the early history.
Okay.
But then the railroad made it to Sheboygan, and well, you know how that went then. Everything changed that way. But Hika was very, very big at one time as a seaport or a shipping port.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Okay, we got a lady here who has a...
Let's see. Well, there must have been big boats because my ancestors came as far as Hika, and then they found out that there was other Germans living here. So they stayed here. They had wanted to get off in Milwaukee. So the big boats must have been coming right in here.
Okay.
I don't know where they came from.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Okay, we have a little bit of a document here in regard to a brewery that apparently was maybe the second brewery, I'm guessing, here at Hika, and there's some German that this gentleman can tell us about. Go right ahead, please.
Melvin Yeaney, and this ad is Gatsky Brothers Brewing Company. Keg and bottled beer. Drink no Heinz. Brewed and bottled by Gatsky Brothers, Cleveland, Wisconsin. No Heinz must have been the brand name that they were selling.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir. And by the way, where did you get that document from?
From Victor Schill.
Okay, just 1 minute.
My mother, she had it in the safety deposit box, and she got it from my dad. My dad got it from his dad.
Okay, I'm going to back up on you. First, I want to know your name.
Victor Schill.
Victor Schill. Now, your dad's name?
Gilbert Schill.
Gilbert Schill, and your dad's name?
He's deceased, and I got it from, I guess, I don't know what his grandfather's name was, but he got it from him.
Okay, so you don't know your grandfather?
Frank Schill.
Frank Schill. Okay. And your living areas was where?
Well, it was in Cleveland, Wisconsin, St. Wendel, but...
Okay, all right, very good. Well, thank you.
Farm was on Union.
Union Road, the farm was on Union Road.
Union Road, okay. And I'm now looking at the document that has that information. Okay, we've got a second brewery, as everybody indicated, and there'll be some information that this lady can give us on that brewery. Go right ahead, please.
I'm Dorothy Anderson, and the first brewery was built in the town of Centreville sometime in the 1840s and was constructed by Simon Krause. The buildings were destroyed by fire in 1880. The Garsky brothers, and one of them was my grandpa,
okay,
took over the brewery in 1899 and operated until 1914. After the brothers shut down the brewery, the building was torn down and the bricks were transported to Manitowoc, where they were used to construct the Mikado Theater. And here's a picture of the brewery after it was built after the fire. The
okay.
picture at left is the brewery that was built in 1890. This brewery was rebuilt from the original brewery, which burnt down in 1880.
Very good. Thank you.
And my mother worked there too.
Your mother worked there also? You know what occupation she had at that brewery?
So, something to do with the bottles, I guess.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Dorothy.
Victor Schill.
Hi, Victor. And you got the information in regard to the brewery? And would this now be what I was just shown as the later brewery?
You're right.
Okay. And we had a gentleman, Melvin Yannick, speak to us because it was written somewhat in German. Thank you. Okay, got a gentleman here who would like to identify himself. Go right ahead, please.
I'm Walter Kress. My grandfather was brewmaster at one time, and my father held bottled the beer.
Okay.
And the white building that's standing there now is the bottling house that used to be for the brewery. There's
Okay.
a concrete foundation at the corner.
Yes.
That's where the ice machine stood on.
Okay.
When we went to grade school, which was right across the street, we used to go sled riding down the Brewery Hill every winter.
Okay.
I went fast too.
Oh boy, very good. Did that end up out in the pond or did?
Almost.
Almost.
Not quite.
Not quite. Oh. Very good. Well, thank you very much, Wally. A young lady, you'd like to identify yourself?
I'm Alice Mathias. I was just looking through this book and I'm wondering where Victor, how, was this published already in 1905?
It's ready. It was published in, that's the first 25-year centennial of St. Wendell's Church from 1865 up to, or whenever it was, up to 1905.
Oh, because there's so...
It's a 25-year jubilee, but it's in German.
Yeah, but it's...
Okay, gentleman will identify himself. Go
I'm
ahead,
Victor
please.
Schill. That book that Alice Matthias is looking at is from first 25 years of St. Wendell's Church. It is printed in German.
Okay.
And it's got the priest in there from 1865 up to 1905.
Okay.
So if anybody can translate it, it'd be helpful.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you for bringing that along, by the way. Thank you. I got a young lady here who has compiled a little bit of information in regard to a church, and she will identify herself and we'll go from there.
Kathy Wagner. St. George Church was located 1 block west of Lake Michigan on Lincoln Avenue in Cleveland. It was organized in 1861 by Father C.J. Schaudenbach and consisted of 18 families. When it was organized, a church was erected in 1862. In 1875, the pastor of St. George's Parish moved into the new St. Wendell Rectory, and St. George's Parish became a mission of St. Wendell. The church was raised and the land, excluding the cemetery, was sold. The rectory at St. George was rented from 1875 to 1948 and sold in 1948. The mission was closed in March of 1953, and members were instructed to join St. Wendell Parish.
Okay.
That's what I have on St. George.
All right. We'll hold it at this moment then. Okay, we got a young lady who is going to identify herself and indicate perhaps some additional information on the church. Go right ahead.
I'm Dorothy Anderson. St. Wendell the St. Wendell congregation dates back to May 31st, 1853. But I don't know why they call it St. Wendell then. 51 German families contributed to a fund for the erection of a church and to support the priests who came from Sheboygan to provide spiritual needs. Before the erection of the first church building, Mass was offered in the William Knauf, a resident in the town of Mosel, and in the Joseph Schulte, resident in the town of Centreville. Property for the erection of the first church building was donated by Stephen Glasser, who gave a parcel of land from his farm. The first church was erected about in the middle of what is now St. Wendell Cemetery. Under the patronage of St. Wendell, the first church of the log construction was erected in 1854 and dedicated in 1855. Priests coming from Sheboygan served the parish from 1855 to 1861, and 1860 was proposed to build a larger church for the increased membership of St. Wendell. Meanwhile, Catholics living in Centreville, then a flourishing village on the shores of Lake Michigan, 2 miles east of St. Wendell, obtained permission to erect a priest's house and a church with the understanding that a priest would be stationed as pastor of the new parish and St. Wendell would be attended as a mission. The church was erected at Centreville with the patronage of St. George. Reverend Joseph Reibel was appointed pastor with St. Wendell as the mission. The members of St. Wendell never quite gave up on their project of a new church, and work was begun in 1863. The new church was erected north of the first log church and dedicated on October 20th of 1864. In 1865, under Father Weiss, the first parochial school was established at St. Wendel. The original log church was converted into a school, and the first teacher was from St. Lazian's Convent. The home of the teacher as provided as in a dwelling north of the, it's real long here.
Yeah,
Present boundary
another
line of the cemetery, which was later enlarged, and the school transferred from the log church to this building, which served for both school and residence for the teachers until the brick school on the east side of the highway was erected.
Shall we just stop
That
there and
goes
see if
on and
somebody
on.
has some comments
Yeah,
to make
there's
about
a
this?
whole-
Okay, I'm gonna ask-
Okay, Irene does.
I'll ask one final question of Dorothy. You mentioned the highway. Now,
It's built on
what,
the east side of the highway?
yeah, what highway are we talking about?
The old 141? The old 141?
Yeah. But that wasn't built that long back, was it? Far back?
Well, it was paved in 1928.
Okay, we've got a highway we were talking about at the end of the conversation with Dorothy, and I believe this lady will indicate that, plus give her name. Go right ahead.
I'm Irene Dine, and the highway was 141 at the time, and now it's Westview Street in Cleveland.
Okay,
And we were talking about the St. George's Church being built. Well, when they built the St. George Church, they built a priest's house with it, which St. Wendel didn't have. And the priest lived there, and that's why St. Wendel was a mission of St. George at first. And later, when they built a priest house and a second church in St. Wendel, a better one than the log cabin,
okay.
then they built a priest house, and then it changed from St. Wendel being the main parish and St. George being the mission.
Okay. Now, location-wise, we have a log church being built. Can you give us some location there?
That, they said, was like in the middle of the cemetery now.
Okay,
The structure that was built after that was built just north of it. That would be on the cemetery property, which is now.
okay. So
And the-
we have on the west side of the highway, we have two churches being built, one further south, if I,
Yeah, first
And
one
it-
farther south,
and then
second one
one
just to the north.
north, in the cemetery area as we see it
Yeah.
now. Is there monuments there to indicate that?
No, just that center of the cemetery is, I think, where the log cabin was.
Okay, all right, very good. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, then that second church burned down.
Okay,
And then had no church again, so then they got property on the east side of the road,
all right,
2 acres, and there they started and they built the brick church not as it is now, the first one, because it was
okay.
added on to later.
all right, thank you. Okay, I got a young lady here who is a first-timer, but she'd like to introduce herself. Go right ahead, please.
I'm Marcy Stein, and let's see now. In 1903, that is when they changed from the Milwaukee Archdiocese to the Green Bay Diocese.
Oh, okay,
And then they were under the supervision of the Green Bay Diocese.
okay,
And up until 1907, German was the only language that was being taught in the schools.
okay,
And then now this is the church that was built on the east side of the road. In 1950, the church was enlarged, and the wings were added. They just, opened it up and put the wings on. And
okay,
and then the basement was excavated at that time too, and a heating system was installed.
okay,
And in 1918, the church was decorated, and the present stations of the cross were placed in the church. And then from 1923 to 1927, extensive work was done on the church again. Hardwood floors were put in a sanctuary with velvet carpet runners, and the church tower was painted, and the priest house was painted, and new wiring and lighting fixtures. And the playground was enlarged for the school children at that time. And in 1930, a new sister's house was erected and steam heating installed in the parochial school. In 1940, a new organ was installed and new boiler for the heating system. This was in the church. In 1948, the steeple was given a new coat of paint, and concrete steps were put in leading into the church. In 1947, the cemetery was enlarged, and the inside of the church cleaned and renovated. A new roof was put on the church also. The basement of the church was completely done over, wood floors taken out and concrete floors put in. And a kitchen was also put in with modern conveniences. In 1949, padded kneelers were installed in the church. And in 1950, a new chimney was put on the church. And then in 1952, St. George was closed. Is that correct?
1952?
In 1952.
Okay.
And the members transferred to St. Wendell Parish.
Okay.
The last services were held at St. George in 1953.
Okay.
And this was way done. This is all done. Around 1953, a new classroom was added in the basement of the church because the old school was not large enough for the crowd. And in 1955, work began on a new, larger school. And in 1956, it was dedicated.
Okay.
So
You
there's
got a picture of that? Could
the
you just
school.
prop that up a little bit, please? Okay. This one.
Good.
Okay, I'm looking at the one on that
No,
page.
down here.
Down here? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I see. And again, that brick building to the south of the church, that was a school also? Is that an original school perhaps?
Yes. That was, the nun's house, Sisters Convent with the new school addition.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Now-
Okay, we've got a young lady who's going to point out some structures on this photo. Go right ahead, please.
Okay, this was the original school.
Okay.
The nuns resided on this end, and then this was 4 classrooms.
All right.
There was two grades in each room.
All right. And then beyond that building is the...
Beyond it, right over here would be the church.
The St.
Yeah,
Wendell
St.
Church.
Wendell Church.
All right. And is there anything in the cemetery area as far as a building at this time or
No.
not? Okay.
No, there's
Just a little shed in the back.
Just the shed there, okay. And what year was this taken? Do you have something on that?
Oh, gosh, 1920 it says.
1920, good. Very good.
And that was the church down there in 1909,
And this is
right?
the church in 1909, yeah.
Where's that? All go down?
That must have been the first one they built across the road.
Oh, okay, that's a 1909?
Right, that's what it said.
Okay. Now, what did they change on the church from 1909 to what I see on the upper picture? Anything?
They added those wings. I don't know if they're outside view of that. See, now this is the old one in 1907.
Ruth, do you have any pictures
Do
with
you
the
have pictures
wings?
of the, added that?
Okay, I'm looking at a newspaper article pertaining to the St. Wendell Church, and we have a front view, which we were looking for to clear up the pictorial audible here about wings. And could you give us that information again, please, just by pointing those areas out?
These wings were added in,
Okay.
what was it? I forgot the year. Do you know what year it was offhand?
No year on that, huh?
62, so that would be before that.
Let us go find that.
Okay, Gay, we had a question in regard to the wings when they were placed upon the church. Go right ahead, please.
Marcy Stein, in 1915 is when the church was enlarged and the wings were added
Okay.
on either side, one on the south side and one on the north side, you know,
And the purpose of those wings was what?
to enlarge the church. The
Oh, that would
enrollment
be-
was large, was getting
Okay,
large.
so that was for extra pews and that type of
Right,
thing?
that's
Okay,
correct.
very good, thank you. We've got a gentleman here who wants to identify himself. He has some information. Go right ahead, please.
Jerry Leonard. And the picture you got on the postcard shows a little building across the road right next to the cemetery. That was the old horse barn. I don't know how many remember that. The
Okay.
horse barn, I remember when I was probably in the 1st or 2nd grade, it was torn down, and then my great uncle John Wagner, Kathy's grandfather, Bobby's grandfather, John,
Okay.
they built the house there. But that was the horse barn across the road.
Is that shown on that picture?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
The little shed that you see across the road.
Okay,
And I
can you
just want to
turn-
add something.
He wants to see it.
Yes,
Oh,
I'd like to see that picture. Thank you,
that-
Gordon.
It's that little bitty shed that you see right next to the cemetery on the bottom here, right?
Okay, gotcha. And that was a horse barn.
Right,
Okay, and again, it was located on the west side of that highway?
right.
Okay, and you have something else, Jerry?
Yeah, and Marcy didn't mention it, but in 1947, when the cemetery was enlarged, I don't know if you remember that, when they had to haul the dirt from your dad's farm, they lowered that hill behind Herman there, when you owned that farmland on Herman's land there, and they scraped the topsoil off, and then Fred Sohn with those big 3-yard trucks they had that time
3-yard
hauled
trucks?
dirt over there. I don't know how many days or how much, but I remember that
Okay,
that they lowered a hill, and because it was quite pretty low behind the cemetery there, and but I just thought that should be down
Yeah.
for history too.
and what year approximately was that?
1947, she said the cemetery was, and her dad's name was Henry A. Leonard.
Okay, very
Who
good.
happened to be my dad's uncle, my great uncle, so
Okay.
we're related.
Very good, Jerry, thank you. Okay, I've got a gentleman here who will identify himself, and he has a special date to remember in that church he's gonna talk about.
You're talking about St. George Church. In 1947, October 26th, Florence and I got married in that church.
Okay,
I think there were about 2 of my cousins after that, then they closed the church.
all right. So you had at least the privilege of
Being
getting married
married
there. Very good, very good.
There's a short aisle, so it got down the aisle pretty quick.
Well, you're a tall man, I'm sure you strode too. Thank you very much. Okay, go right ahead, sir, identify yourself.
Jerry Leonard. Now, we're talking about the church building. I always remember my grandfather, Albert, was a brother to Marcy's dad, Henry, talking about when they built that church and how it was all farmers, of course, and how they
Yes.
were supposed to pledge.
Yes,
And I remember him telling how he and other farmers pledged 2 calves, and then when they were ready to be freshened, then they sold those 2 calves or heifers,
okay.
and that went to the church. I wonder how many people today would take on a 2-year project, and
Yes.
then when they see the nice dollar bill there, give it away like that. I
That's
always
right.
thought that was amazing, because that was quite an endeavor in those years.
That's right.
To do something like that. I thought that should be down on the record.
Very good. Thank you, Jerry. Very good. Okay, I got a pretty young lady here also, and she'd like to say a few words and identify herself.
I am Ruth Lacroix, and I was wondering what anybody knows about the St. Joseph Church that was a mission of St. Wendell, and that was at Schwartzwald. In fact, we were to the cemetery there not so long ago.
Okay.
But I don't know anything about that church, and there's nothing in the book really either.
Okay, could you give that name of that church again, please?
St. Joseph's Church in Schwartzwald.
Schwartzwald. Now, where is Schwartzwald located?
Sheboygan County.
I'll let this gentleman handle it.
What? Where is the Schwartzwald Church on what road? Orchard Road? It's Orchard, but that's with a half a mile north of there.
Well, somebody
Since
takes care of
somebody-
the cemetery.
Somebody's got to know the location, I would think, right? Okay, but that's a good question. We'll get that, see if we can get it answered for you. Okay, we have a gentleman here who'd like to talk about something, and he'll identify himself.
Jerry Leonard. The cemetery, or the church at St. Joseph, is located on the intersection of Highland, and I can't think of the other, but it's right north, half a mile north of Orchard Road.
Okay,
And that was quite a going church at one time, but I really don't know much about it, but I do know on my mother's side, the grandparents are buried there, the Westlings.
okay,
And then their Kirches are there. That was all relation to us, but there was some kind of a fallout at that time too. I don't know the real history, and that's probably why a lot of people don't talk much about it. Years ago, they didn't
Okay.
talk much about church, but
yeah.
that was Sheboygan County,
Mm-hmm,
so that was Milwaukee Archdiocese.
okay,
And then St. Wendell had that same affair. They were part of Milwaukee, but
Okay.
actually Green Bay had jurisdiction over Manitowoc County.
all right,
So then when St. Wendell started, and St. Wendell was much more, I say, prolific probably, or more progressive.
okay,
And St. Joseph sort of died out for lack of people and the distance from any other really major concern of the Milwaukee Archdiocese.
All
I think
right.
they were
okay.
kind of became the forgotten
Yes.
people up there.
Yeah.
It just faded away. But the cemetery, a few years ago, was in very, very bad shape, but then some people took it on their own and
Good.
they really refurbished it as well as they could. But most of the stones are the old limestone stones, and
Stones,
a
yeah.
lot of them are standing in the corner, so they're really
Oh,
not
really?
very legible anymore. But
Okay.
I do have relatives buried there.
Okay. Was that church the St. Joseph? Is
St.
that correct?
Joseph's.
Was that a brick, a stone, a wood church? Do you
I
remember?
would think there must have been a wooden church. I don't know. I never saw a church there.
Okay.
And I haven't talked to anyone in recent years that remember a church being there.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, we got a couple of people that joined us here, and we'd like to have them identify themselves.
My name's Rich Brown, and this is my wife Yvonne.
Hi, Yvonne.
We're Cleveland residents.
Okay.
And no, I didn't receive a special Valentine, but
Okay.
I'm about to give one, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, good for you, sir. Did you receive any special Valentine in the past?
No.
Nothing at all, huh? Well, this is going to be a good one.
It better be.
But now, when you say you're Cleveland residents, could you give us your street or location if you can?
Yeah, I live here in a trailer park at Beechwood Street, 212 Beechwood.
Okay, very good.
My grandfather worked back here with the railroad in well, had to be in the 20s, before 1930.
Okay.
Before the crash.
All right.
For a while, and then he was transferred from here up to, I believe, the Park Falls area.
Okay.
Houghton and so on like that.
All right.
And spent some time around here, and we spent about 31 years in Sheboygan.
All right.
But made this our home here about 4 years, 5 years, 4 years back, so 5 years ago, something like that.
Okay. Very good.
And a lot of nice people here.
Good.
Really
Well,
like
thank
it.
you for joining us too. I appreciate
We
it.
originally came from the country and stuff, and
All right.
it was really nice to get back here again.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming.
Sure,
Appreciate
thank
it. We had some information in regard to St. Joe's Church, and I can't pronounce the location to save my soul, but maybe this lady can introduce herself and tell us about that.
Marcy Stein, and this St. Joe Church was in Schwarzwald in the town of Herman.
Okay.
And in 1914, it was disbanded.
Okay.
The parishioners just went to surrounding churches.
All right.
So
And the church was demolished or after that, or
I
something
imagine
happened
it
to
was
it?
torn down.
Probably it is.
I'm sure it was.
Okay.
Imagine it was.
All right. Well, very good. Anything else you have there?
Well, I can finish about St. Wendell. In
Yes.
1958, St. Wendell, Hika, and Cleveland became the village of Cleveland.
Okay.
The 3 communities became one. And let's see. In 1969, enrollment was dropping in the schools, so they decided to send the 7th and 8th graders to the public school. And then some lay teachers were hired for the rest of the students. And then in 1971, the school closed due to falling enrollment and the cost of lay teachers.
Okay.
And in, I think I have that. And in, let's see. In 1963, parts of the Mass became English. And then in 1970, the entire Mass
Okay.
was said in English.
All right. Otherwise, it was always German?
Otherwise, it was in Latin.
Oh, Latin?
It was in Latin.
Okay.
And then, you didn't really know what was going on because you didn't know what it meant, but now
Ah.
it's in English, so then you could understand it.
Okay.
In 1976, there was a terrible ice storm, and then there was no electricity at the church, so then we had to have Mass down at the Cleveland School Gymnasium.
Okay.
And that was an experience, remember that? And then after the school was closed and there were no more teaching nuns, the convent was converted into the rectory for the priest. And
Okay.
then the old rectory was sold to Joe Leonard, and he moved it to its present address on Westview Street. See, the rectory was on the north side of the church.
Yes.
And
Okay.
now it's moved to, what is it? Second house south of the church is where it
Oh,
is.
okay. So they moved it off the church property
They
down
moved-
a
yeah,
little
they
ways?
sold it, and then Joe Leonard, my brother, bought it.
All right.
And had it moved.
Okay.
And then let's see, after the school was closed, say when the school was closed, some people sent their children to St. Isidore and Osmond to school.
Okay.
And then in 2001, that school was closed.
All right.
And then some of the the church wasn't closed then, though, was it? It was closed later. But some of the members joined St. Wendel in 2002, huh? Yeah. Yeah, in 2002. Our school? Oh, St. Wendel School was closed in 1971, pardon?
St. Wendel closed in 2002.
The church closed in 2002, yeah. And the members were divided. Some went to a new church in the town of Newton.
Yes.
And others went to Manitowoc School Hill or Sheboygan.
All right. Now.
And then the churches were sold. The Osmond Church was sold, and I believe it's used for storage at this point.
Okay.
And St. Wendel Church was sold, and it was also resold again, and right now it's being used for a Pentecostal religion, I believe, is using it for services now.
Now, this is what's happening at St. Wendel right
That's
now.
what's happening at St. Wendel.
Oh, okay.
It's no longer the St. Wendel Church, it's a Pentecostal church.
Pentecostal. Does somebody know about that?
Yeah.
Ruth could say more about the
Very
church.
good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
her brother bought the church originally, so
Okay.
Ruth would know more about that.
I'll do that. Thank you very much. We've got a young lady here who has a picture alongside of her, and she'd like to introduce herself.
I am Ruth Lacroix, and this is my brother Harold Grease,
Okay.
who bought the St. Wendel Church. And this is a picture that his friends took and doctored up to make him look like a priest. He said as long as he had a church, he might as well be a
Be
father.
part of father.
So it's really a joke, but it's we enjoyed it.
Okay.
I have a picture here of Father Schaefer.
Okay, could you prop that up for me, please? Can Melvin or someone?
He was
or your
at
husband?
St. Wendel from 1940 to 1950. He married Marv and I, and he baptized our first child,
Okay, and the priest's name again was?
Father Joseph Schaefer.
Schaefer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Schaefer.
And do you remember how long he was the priest?
Yeah, from
father?
1940 to 1950 at St. Wendel.
Okay, all right, very good. Does anybody know, I've been in St. Wendel, and I was impressed with the marble pillars and all the decorations in the church. Anybody know where that all came from or how that came about? It was very impressive to me.
No, I don't think so. I have pictures
Okay, you got
here,
some
but I don't
pictures?
know if
Let's
you-
go after them.
Okay.
Okay, we're looking at a picture of the inside of, I believe, St. Wendel Church, and this lady will give us her name and tell us a little bit about that picture.
I am Ruth Lacroix, and I took these pictures before the church closed.
Okay.
Now, I have more of them. Do you want them, or do you want
Sure.
the pictures
Oh,
that were after?
Let's see what you have, sir. Okay. Like I said, I thought that was a very pretty church. inside.
This is from the choir loft.
Okay, great. All right, and I'll go over here. Okay, good. Very
Then I
good.
have some of the empty church.
All right. I'll put a cut here. Okay, we have another picture here, and it's on the exterior, and you're looking in what direction when you took this picture?
To the east.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other pictures that you may
Yeah,
have?
I have lots of them. This is with the for sale sign.
Okay, can you hold that one on steady? Okay, and again, your brother has purchased that church?
He no longer has it.
He no longer has
He
it?
sold it to I think they're Mexicans, aren't they? Some Iglesias or something. This is when the
Oh.
church was empty. Iglesias, I think it's called.
Iglesias,
Mm.
that their...
I want to stop in there sometime just to see what it's like now.
Sure, yes, I
This is
would.
another one of it empty.
Okay. And it had a choir loft?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The organ, they never moved the organ.
Oh, really?
It was too hard to move. That's another one.
Okay, that's looking down the aisle.
Mm-hmm. And here's the sanctuary.
Okay.
Do you have a picture of the choir loft? Here's a
Yeah.
picture of the choir loft.
You got one with the choir loft? Just one second.
Not like that. This I got of the.
Okay, I'll be right with you, Kathy. Oh, look at that.
And when we were in the church one day when my brother was home from Arizona, he played a polka on the organ.
Very
That's
good.
him. That's the fella that owned the
Owns
church
the
for a while.
Now, okay, who was the last priest there at the very end?
Father Jacobs.
Father Jacobs.
Gilbert Jacobs.
Father Gilbert Jacobs?
Mhm.
Okay.
I got a little picture of him.
Okay, I'll be right there, Kathy. Thank you. Very good. Thank you for the pictures. Okay, we've got a young lady who has some more information about St. Wendell.
Some of the things the people that bought the church know.
Kathy Wagner. I have a picture here of Father Jacobs, who was the last pastor at St. Wendell.
Okay. Is he still a father?
Yes, he is. He lives at the Abbey in Green Bay.
Okay, very good. And this is sort of a commemoration, or was it
This was
pertaining?
his retirement.
Oh, that was his
We had a
retirement?
special mass and
Okay,
little celebration for that.
all right, very good.
And then this is the choir loft. I think you have a
Yes, I
have a
was
picture
looking
of the
for that,
choir loft.
yes. There
That's
it
the
is.
choir loft.
Okay, very good. And the organ is indicated was up there too?
Yes.
And that is there yet?
I'm not sure if it's there anymore. Is that what Ruth said? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. Okay, we got a young lady who has some more information she'd like to give us. Go right ahead,
Okay.
please.
Kathy Wagner. I have a September 25th, 1980 write-up of the church, and it says that the name St. Wendell is derived from Wendelinus, who was the favored patron saint of Trier, a province in Germany where many forefathers immigrated 150 years ago.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
A 3-foot by 5-foot oil painting of St. Wendell was imported from Germany by the Reverend Oswald of St. Nazianz.
Holy, oh, okay. Very good, thank you. Okay, we got a gentleman here with some more information.
Melvin Yenich, and there's a town in Germany by the name of St. Wendell too, and it's about the size of Sheboygan.
Okay,
And it's an area somewhere near the Rhine somewhere.
okay. But is this called St. Wendell?
Yes.
Okay, do we know that that is where these people perhaps came from?
I don't know, probably.
Okay, just one moment. Okay, got a young lady here who would like to identify herself, and she's got something to show us. Go right ahead.
I'm Alice Mathias. I have a picture when the church was renovated. This would have been the last time. It was 1967.
Okay,
Father Watry was the pastor at that time.
okay,
And I remember the people that were from George, I thought it was Justin or whatever, out of Milwaukee that did it.
all right.
And they did an very, very nice job.
Yes, yes. Very good. Thank you very, very much. Okay, we have a young lady who brought some more additional pictures, and it's showing a special occasion at this St. Wendell Church, and she will give us that information. Go right ahead.
This was for 125th anniversary. They had a polka mass where they bring in a band. I'm not sure if it was Jerry Schneider at that time, probably.
I think this is Velker.
Velkert? Oh, Jerry Velkert, okay.
Okay.
And it was during the mass, and they had a big, good crowd, and it was
Mhm.
very nice.
We didn't
dance,
we just tapped our
No, right,
You
right.
just tapped your feet a little bit, huh?
And it's nice if a person never went to a polka
No, I
mass,
never
you know,
did.
they play
Yeah.
all the religious songs in the polka beat,
Okay,
and it's really nice.
wonderful. Very good. And what year and what occasion was
It was
that?
the 125th anniversary,
Okay,
and that was in 1980, I believe. 1980?
very good. Thank you, Al.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, we got a young lady who is going to provide some information, and she's getting it from some document. Go right ahead, please.
I'm Ruth Lacroix, and there's a letter in this book that the Kerbers got from a girl in St. Wendell, Germany.
Okay, can you read that, or is it too long?
It's pretty long, but they corresponded with her.
And what was this girl's name?
Let's see what's here. Here, Ruth Angel.
Ruth Angel.
Mm-hmm.
And she lived in the original St. Wendell in Germany?
In Germany. Mm-hmm.
And they corresponded with her?
Yes, they did. She was 22 years old,
Okay,
and she worked for the USA, but in Germany.
all right.
And that's where she heard about St. Wendell, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm Leonard Mathias. I'm just wondering, that brick that all came out into that church, if that all came out of Witt's brickyard out of down in Hika that time, because it's that same looking brick as what
Okay.
they were making,
Yes.
and with other buildings around the area at that time, if that was the same brick. I was just wondering.
Okay, we'll get
Because
it.
remember years, some time ago, we did mention about the brickyard, about all the employees they had
Yes,
there.
we did, yes.
So I was just wondering if they made all the brick there, it wouldn't be too far to drive
That's
to
right, that's right.
bring them up here then.
Very good. I'll check into that for you. Thank you. Okay, got a gentleman here who would like to clear up the question pertaining to the brick perhaps that was used on St. Wendell Church. Go right ahead, please.
Well, Fred Jacoby, this Centerville anniversary book called The Brick and Tile Company, which started sometime in the 1850s, and then Whitty was involved, and Durst, which I wonder about if that might be spelled something different. It says was operated until 1920.
Okay.
So that would seem that it likely produced those bricks, and as Melvin Yannick said, there was more than Namakato is another thing. Buildings in Manitowoc, and
Okay.
the silo on our farm was built out of that brick.
Okay, and that was...
Four-course brick silo.
All right. And that was called Cream City Brick?
Well, that was what it's called, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
That was built more places out of Milwaukee too, but
Okay.
I'm sure they didn't get it from Milwaukee around
Yeah,
here.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay, we got a lady here who would like to say a few words. Go right ahead.
I'm Irene Dine, and we were talking about St. Wendell Church and when the cemetery was started. Now, buried on that cemetery is a Sophia Gherkin who was buried in 1850. But our church was only started in 1855. So did they just bury people anywhere at first?
Sure, they were buried in their home places.
Oh.
There were a lot of farms.
And her father was William Gherkin, who was buried there in 1851, who was that first man that was murdered in Manitowoc County that we
Okay.
talked about a couple months ago.
Yes, yes.
That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you. Okay, we got a lady who was going to go back in history a little bit as far as a church, original church location and what's there now. Go right ahead, please.
Marcy Stein, and that first church, the log church, was built where the cemetery is now, where the cross is. That's where the altar was for the church.
Okay. And that was a log church, you said?
That was the log church. That was the first one that was built.
Okay. And the cemetery is there and...
Cemetery is still there on the west side of the Westville.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We got a lady here who has a question, and she'd like to give her name, please.
My name is Edith Litzy, and they were wondering about what happened to the stuff inside of that St. Wendell Church, and I had heard that the altar went to the healthcare center that's across from Silver Lake College.
Okay.
I don't know if that is true
All
or
right.
not.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, we've got a young lady who, there was a question on the floor pertaining to an altar, and she will give us some information in that regard. Go right ahead.
Kathy Wagner. The altar from St. Wendell is at the healthcare center because I've been there and I've seen it.
Okay, and again, that the altar is from St. Wendell?
From St. Wendell Church.
From St. Wendell Church, and the location of the healthcare center is where?
Across the street from Silver Lake College.
Okay, and there's a road, is there a?
151.
Okay.
Highway 151 is in front of the building.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. We had a question from the other side of the floor. Go right ahead, please.
I'm Kathy Sixel, and I would like to ask Ruth Lacroix if she knows where the benches or some of the furnishings went.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I've got a gentleman here who has got some answers for us. He'll identify himself. Go right ahead,
Marvin
please.
LaCroix. And the way we were told that the benches out of the church went over to St. Joseph's at Alverno.
Okay.
And the old benches from Alverno were brought over here. And as much as I know, they're still presently in the church over here.
So they went away from the church to Alverno?
And the churches from Alverno came over here.
Okay.
Are in the church over here now.
Okay, the church at Alverno was called what?
St. Joseph's.
St. Joseph's, okay. And when we talk about benches, we're talking about pews, is that correct?
Pews, that is correct.
Okay, very good. So any other articles that you know of went to different areas, like St. Thomas the Apostle? I know that's the new church now.
Yeah.
Anything went that direction? Okay.
Ask Carol.
Somebody else has some information? I'll head over there. Thank you. Very good, Mark. Okay, I'm looking at a view of the steeple of St. Wendell, and we have a lady who's going to give us some information in that area. Go right ahead, please.
Marcy Stein, and I believe the steeple from the St. Wendell Church was taken down and
Okay.
taken over to St. Huh? Oh, the cross, not the steeple, that stainless
Just the
steel
cross on top, okay.
And supposedly is going to be put up at the St. Thomas the Apostle Church when it's built.
Okay, right now the St. Thomas the Apostle has sort of temporary quarters
Right.
for the church, and the new one will be eventually
That's
built
correct.
there? Okay, very good. Okay, and if I may ask, what church are you, did you attend St. Wendell? I'm sure you did.
Yes, we did for many years.
Okay, were you married there and so forth?
Yes, I was baptized there, married there, and
Okay,
now we belong to Sheboygan.
oh, okay,
Sheboygan.
okay. And how many years ago were you married?
It's going on 53.
Really? Good for you, good for you. Congratulations.
A long time.
Very good, thank you. Okay, we have a young lady who would like to ask a question and identify herself.
I'm Kathy Sixel, and I would like to ask Marcy if she'd be willing to give the statistics of the cost of the church originally.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I've been looking at a document, and there'll be some facts and figures in there that this lady will provide to us, and she'll identify herself. Go right ahead, please.
Marcy Stein, and this is when the church was built. It was either between 1893 and 1898. The mason work by Hemsing and Schumann Company of Sheboygan was $1,500. Carpenter work by Mr. Jake Hildebrand Sheboygan was $2,545. Other items for the building, brick, stone, etc., whatever that was, I don't know, $6,000. Architects' plans and supervision was $1,080. Ornamental windows were donated respectively by the Christian Mother Society, Young Men's Society, Reverend William DeJal, and Monsignors Henry Schaefer and Matthias Wagner. What is that? $92.50 each for the windows.
You mean those big stained glass windows?
The stained glass ones, evidently. Mr. Nicholas Worth donated for the large church bell. That was $225. Mr. Matthias Schmitten donated towards smaller bell. That was $100. Congregation added the balance for the bells, which was $45. Congregation expended for altars was $600. Congregation for the communion rail was $125. The choir gallery congregation was $75, and the congregation for pews $400. Imagine what that would cost today. The actual cost for additional furnishing materials amounted to $13,157.50. The total cost of the new church and furnishings to have been approximately $15,000. To build a church for $15,000, unreal.
Do you have any total or the greatest amount of communicants that belong to the church at one time at all?
Gosh.
I can cut here and we'll see if we can find that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some information in regard to a bell, and this lady will identify herself.
Kathy Wagner, and I have information on a whole bunch of bells. On Monday the 14th, the two bells, vintage 1895, were removed from St. Casimir. The 800-pound and 500-pound bells were shipped along with a 1,500-pound St. Wendell bell to the Burden Company in Cincinnati, Ohio, to be stored, refurbished, and returned when needed at St. Thomas for installation in the bell tower. These three bells were chosen for their tone compatibility.
Okay. Could you read that one more time? There's a lot of information came out of there.
Oh, I can go slower. On Monday the 14th, the two bells vintage 1895 were removed from St. Casimir. The 800-pound and 500-pound bells were shipped along with the 1,500-pound St. Wendell bell to the Burden Company in Cincinnati, Ohio, to be stored, refurbished, and returned were needed at St. Thomas for installation in the bell tower. These 3 bells were chosen for their tone compatibility.
Okay, very good.
The wrought iron cross on St. Casimir was removed and also stored in St. Wendell Cemetery garage. Total cost to remove 7 bells and 4 crosses in all the churches was $11,600.
Okay, very good information, I must say. Thank you. I got some additional information by this lady, and she'll continue. Go right ahead,
There was
please.
also a bell purchased by St. Norbert College.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
That's it.
Very good. Thank you.
Choose a transport from Newton, Wisconsin, transported the bells.
Okay. And they're presently, as they indicate there, are in storage.
Are in storage for
And-
when they are needed
Okay.
at the new church.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
You are
Good-
welcome.
Good information. Okay, I got a gentleman here who was part of St. Wendell Church at one time, and they belong to a few other areas of that church. Go right ahead, please.
Martin LaCroix. I was secretary of the Holy Name Society for 2 years.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what the years was. It must have been around 1975.
Okay. And did you belong in the choir at all yourself, or anything like that?
Usher for.
Usher? Okay.
For as long as I belonged here.
Okay. And
Married there.
oh, you were married there too. What
Yeah.
year was that?
1948.
1948.
Oh, yeah.
So that brings up, what does that amount to? My math is not very good here.
57.
57 years, well,
All
again.
3 of our children were baptized there.
Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, we're looking into people's personal lives a little bit, what they did with the church and so forth, and this gentleman will identify himself and tell us what he did.
I am Victor Schill. I was an altar boy from 1948 till 1954.
Okay.
And it started in Latin when I first started.
Okay.
Still can say some of the prayers in Latin yet and
Hey,
understand.
can we bother you for one?
Sure.
Could you come up with one for us, please?
Oh, Dominus Vobiscum, et cum spiritu tancto Deo. I can say the Confiteor or two in Latin, but it's
Go,
long.
give it a whirl. Give it a whirl. We'll work with you.
Oh my God. Confiteor Deus, Dominic Amino. That's all I can remember, but.
Okay. Now, was this?
Tell us what it was in English? Got it then?
Oh. It's a really, it's like I believe in God the Father Almighty, creator in heaven and earth.
Okay.
But it was in Latin.
Okay, yes. Now, you had to go to actual schooling for this, when you went for this job, if you will?
No, they gave you a card and you memorized and you had to go over with the nun and the priest.
Okay. Now, you had to follow him when you said these things, or was this on your own?
Well, we had to say it all, us altar boys had to say it together.
Okay.
It was like 4 of us sometimes, 2 of us, 3 of
Okay.
us, it depends how many were serving.
All right. And your main job as an altar boy, what was the main job that you did? Just to help out along?
Well, we brought up the water so he can wash his fingers, and then we had to ring the bell, and then we had to carry the thing for the host.
Okay.
And then we had to put it underneath each other's chin on a communion railing, so in case it had dropped, you could
Okay.
pick it up.
Yes, yes, all right, okay. Very good. And when you were up there for the first time, did you have a little bit of jitters?
Couldn't remember my prayers. I was shaking in front of all the people.
And what priest was involved at that time, or did you have a couple of them?
I had Father Schaefer.
Okay, very good. Very good. Thank you
Then
very
I
much.
had Keller, and then I had Father Keller.
Okay.
Audrey?
Thank you. Young lady would like to say a few words?
I'm just wondering if any of the girls, I'm Alice Mathias.
Yes.
If Kathy or Marcy or Ruth would have the price when we did the big renovation in 1980, what the price was in comparison to what the church cost. It cost
Okay.
$15,000.
Yes.
And I was just wondering what this costs. I'm sure someplace it must be in those books.
So Alice, you went to that church, right?
Mhm.
Okay, were you married there by any chance?
No, we were
Oh.
married in Manitowoc.
In Manitowoc, okay.
But I belonged to the church all while it was there.
Okay, so you got
I
confirmed?
mean, not all the, it was there all while we lived there.
You got confirmed and baptized, things
No,
like that?
no, mm-mm.
Okay.
Our son got baptized there. No, we were married in Manitowoc, and I grew up in Manitowoc.
All right, okay, very good.
But I
Thank-
belonged to the Christian Mothers. We had a lot of stuff to do.
All
I
right.
know the year when this church was renovated, then I was the president of the Ladies Society.
Okay.
And then we had a lot to do with that.
Okay.
Taking out stuff, sort of like.
All right, very good, thank you. Okay, we got a question coming up from Alice here, and she'd like to identify herself, of course.
I'm Alice Matthias. I was just wondering how many families we had when the church closed.
Okay, very good. Okay, we had a question pertaining to when the church closed, but I guess there is a date at which the church was still active in 1980, I believe.
Marcy Stein, yes.
Yes.
The church closed in 1980, and at that time there was 252 families that belonged to the
Oh,
parish.
okay, all right, very good. Thank you. Okay, we got a retraction on a statement made, but we can take care of that very easily. Go right ahead, please.
Marcy Stein, this was 1980. I said earlier that's when the church was closed, but that is incorrect.
Okay.
But in 1980, there was 252 families
All right,
that attended the church.
okay, very good, thank you. We have a lady here who had a question and brought a lot of response. Go right ahead.
Kathy Sixel, and I would like to know how many of our people this evening attended the parochial school at St. Wendell.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, we have a lady here who's going to respond on that question. Go right ahead, please.
Marcy Stein, well, I attended it for 8 years. I graduated in 1948, so I was there for my 8 years of elementary education.
So it started out perhaps in 1940 and went to 48.
Yeah, evidently.
That sounds good to me. And your teachers were whom?
Oh my goodness, I can't remember them all.
They were nuns?
Yes, we had nuns.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, she had another recall here for a moment. Go right ahead.
Marcy Stein, and there was a chapel connected to, it was between the nun's house and the school.
Okay,
And then, like, we had mass, I don't remember if it was daily, but a couple times a
okay.
week, and then they just opened the doors to the chapel, and then we could just
Mm-hmm.
attend the services right from our classroom.
All right. Did you have to wear any special uniform
No.
at all?
No,
Just
we
regular?
didn't have uniform, just our regular clothes.
Okay, very good. And did you learn any Latin or anything like that?
No, I didn't learn Latin, but when our boys were growing up, I had to teach them Latin to be a mass server. I remember that. But I
Okay.
don't remember it now.
All right, very good, thank you. Okay, I'm looking at a picture here of a chapel, I believe I was told, and this young lady, rather, can point out what we're looking at.
This is the chapel,
Okay.
right here, that taller building, and then this was the school.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you could get right into the chapel, and then the
Alright.
nun's house is on the other side of the chapel.
All right, and this chapel was located, would that be south of the church, is that
Yes,
right?
south of the church.
Okay, so there'd be like a parking lot to the right of the picture.
That's
there.
right.
Oh, okay,
That's
and that was a
correct.
brick structure too?
Yes, it was.
Okay, very good, thank you. Well, I'm gonna ask one more question then. How many students were in that class when you were there?
Oh my goodness. There was 7 in my grade, but now then there was four grades in the room.
Oh,
So
okay.
anywhere from, probably it averaged about 10 in a class, I
All
would
right,
say.
so we're talking mid-30s perhaps? or-
Right, between 35 and 40 maybe.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, we got a gentleman here, we had the question, who attended the St. Wendell School, and this gentleman will identify himself.
I'm Victor Schill. I attended from 1946 till 1954.
Okay,
I went from first grade to 8th grade.
all right,
I can remember some of the sisters, Mary Ann Florian, Sister Oliver, and Sister Clementine, and
okay, good for you, good for you. Yeah, I think you're headed away to heaven.
and so we had only a 3-room school. We had one.
Okay,
We had 3 rooms. So
all right. Did you?
8th grade was in the big 5th to 8th were in the big room, and we were in the 4th to 6th were in the middle, and the 1st and 2nd were in the chapel.
Okay, that's how they did that. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
And we had ink wells for desks.
Inkwells in the desk, huh? No kidding. Very good. Very good. And the quantity of people that you were in there at the time you were there, was it in that
I
mid-30s?
think we had close to, through the whole school, I think it was about 80 kids in there.
Oh, really?
From 1 to 8.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well attended then.
And I have a picture here from the
Yes?
school.
Oh,
Some
wonderful.
graduation class.
Wonderful. Can you hold that just solid for me, please, while I go in on it? Are you in this class?
No, that's from early 1905. It says St. Wendell School.
Really? Oh, okay.
All the kids that went to school at St. Wendell at that time.
Okay, I'm going to pan and telephoto in a little bit closer, and I'm going to pan across this evening. Okay, we have another bright student who went to St. Wendell, and she'd like to identify herself. Go right ahead, please.
I am Ruth Lacroix. When I went to school there were 4 grades per room. We only had the 2 rooms.
Okay.
I went 7th and 8th grade. When I graduated from 8th grade, there were 6 of us. It was John Klettner, John Brummeyer, Rodney Hansen, Joe Leonard, Dorothy Meyer, and myself.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, that's very good. I appreciate that. Okay, any other pictures that you might have with you pertaining to the school
No,
thing?
I have pictures of that, but at home.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Because they used to take graduation pictures then.
Okay, oh yes, okay. Very good, thank you. Okay, we got an add-on here for a teacher that was recalled. Go right ahead, please.
The nun I had both years was Sister Antonio. She was quite elderly.
Okay, and that was she dressed in a nun uniform?
Uh-huh.
And,
Looked
okay.
like the flying nun.
The flying nun, okay. Their habits were unusual, or?
Well, they had the stiff, whatever you
Oh,
call
that
them.
one across the forehead, and,
Yeah, and
oh
then-
my goodness.
And the long sleeves and
Yes. Now, when you went to grade school, we had this the other evening, schools like that, did you have any what they call duties to do, such as cleaning blackboards?
Clean the blackboards
Yes.
and dust and sweep a little bit.
Yes, you did that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good, very good. And was this a privilege to do this, or was it?
That's pretty long ago. I don't remember.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, we had just another recall on something pertaining to perhaps school. Right.
We had a short little nun called Sister Adrian. She made the host, and I'm sure you couldn't do that now, but she had a little machine that cut out the host, and then we kids could eat the scraps.
Oh, really?
They weren't blessed, but they were, and we practiced.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Like that. We got a gentleman here who apparently had his education also from St. Wendell. He'd like to identify himself.
My name is Jerry Leonard. I went to St. Wendell from 1939 to 1946.
Okay.
8 years. And I don't know how Ruth can say that Sister Antonio was old. I had her after I was. I had 2 nuns my 8 years.
All
Sister
right.
Emmanuel was in the first 4 grades, and Sister Antonio was the second 4 grades. And we have the distinct honor, I think, of being one of the few classes that never had a girl in its class. I went through 8
Really?
years of school at St. Wendell and
Really?
never had a girl as a classmate. There were 7 boys.
No kidding.
And talk about extra duties as
Yes.
you were in the 7th and 8th grade. The heating system was the old stoker fired, if people remember the stoker, where you had to fill the hopper and
Yeah.
in the afternoon take the clinkers out of that was the school kids' job.
That's what
we
the
did
big-
that.
yeah,
We
yeah.
went over that, so it was kind of a privilege. School
Yeah.
let out at 3:30, but at 3 o'clock you could go and
You could go already.
goof off already, so to speak, although you had to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we had to carry the coal was real handy. You had to put it in a metal bushel basket, and 2 guys had to carry the bushel basket and dump it in, and go
Aye.
back and fill another bushel basket and dump it
Really?
in. Later on, I guess they made it more convenient. I guess the boys weren't as strong anymore. But and
Now-
then we cleaned the clinkers out of the furnace, and that was our job.
Okay. Now, this furnace, was this down in the basement area?
It was in the convent, under the convent.
Oh, under the
So we had to
convent.
go over there, and like she talked about Sister Adrian. Oh yes, she was very good. And once in a while, when often on a Thursday or Friday, if she was baking, probably for the weekend, it wasn't unusual to maybe get a donut or a piece of coffee cake or something.
She was pretty good. Huh?
She was a wonderful nun, right, Ruth? Wouldn't you say? She was.
Good.
And so that was my history of St. Wendell, but I never had a girl in the class.
Oh, darn. By the way, you said the nuns, did they live right next door to the school?
Yeah, they lived right there, yeah.
So they never had to really go outside if they didn't wish
no.
to? They could come right through?
They
and-
went right through from their convent through that little chapel
Okay.
and into the classroom. And
Yes.
that's how they, but that's how, but in those days, a lot of people now when they think, how could one nun do that? But in those days, the older children would help the lower grades.
For studying, you mean?
Sure. Tutoring or mentoring or whatever
Yes.
fancy word you use nowadays. I
Yes.
remember that when I was in 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
You helped a 5th and 6th grader if they were having problem with a math problem or
Sure.
history or
Okay.
spelling, and same way in the lower grades. And now
Good.
it seems we have everything so segregated that nobody knows what another classroom is doing.
That's right. That's right. Oh, very good. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
She never knew that. She always said that.
Okay, we're looking at a picture, and this lady will identify herself and indicate maybe if she would like to read off the names. It'd be kind of interesting for that too, if you could. Is it difficult to do?
No, now I can.
Okay.
I'm Irene Dine,
Yes, Irene.
and it's a graduation class of St. Wendell of 1941. In the back row was Father Kirsten, Stanley Dine, Hilmer Wagner, Francis Orth, and Roger Yost. Front row was Eugene Wagner, Ruth Sam, Bernice Whiter, and Hilary Mayer.
Okay. And you indicate your husband,
My husband is Stanley Dine,
Stanley Dine. Could you point him out, please?
right there.
Oh, okay. Very
And
good.
they're all gone but two.
Really? Oh, my goodness. And what year was that graduate again, please?
1941.
41. Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, we got a lady here who would like to say a few words. First, requiring her name, please.
Irene Dine,
Thank you, Irene.
and I think I talked enough for tonight.
You did. You did fine. And who do you have here, please?
Marcy Stein.
Marcy, thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And
I'm
who do you-
Harold Stein.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Hope to see you again, sir. And who do you have here, please?
I'm Alice Mathias.
Thank you, Alice.
Willard Elias.
Willard, thank you. And who do you have here?
Eugene Moiser.
Thank you, Eugene. Almost called you Moiser. Thank you, Eugene. Yes, sir.
Schill.
Thank you for coming. Very good.
Marvin LaCroix.
Marvin, thank you for coming also and enjoyed it.
Ruth Lacroix, and I'm really glad we came. It was very interesting.
Well, thank you very much. We're glad you did come. And who do you have here, please?
Melvin Yiddish.
Melvin, thank you as always.
Kathy Wagner?
Kathy, thank you for all your information this evening. Appreciate it. And who do you have here, please?
Walter Kress.
Walter, thank you again also. Right ahead, please.
Dolores Kress.
Dolores, thank you for coming. We appreciate you. And who do you have here, please?
Jerry Leonard.
Jerry, thank you very much for all your information. Appreciate that. And who do you have here, please?
Fred Jacoby.
Thank you, Fred, for coming. And who do you have here, please?
Dorothy Anderson.
And Dorothy, thank you also.
Edith Litzy.
Edith, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And
Kathy Sixel, and again, I want to thank everybody for coming, especially Victor and Ruth and Marvin LaCroix and Marcy and Harold Stein. It was really nice that you took time in your busy schedule to come and help us out. And our next meeting is going to be March 13th, and it'll be here, I don't know which room yet, at 6:30, and it's going to be on St. John, St. Peter Church, and Reverend Koch is going to help us out, and John Wiegand. Oh, I'm going to tell you another thing. We had an
Yeah.
exciting day. Last Friday, we went to the Hetzel house. Now, you know what house I mean? That's the house at LTC, and we were able to go through it, and Jerry videoed it. But it was in pretty rough shape, like the tiles are falling down and this and that, but it was a gorgeous house at one time. It had 7 bedrooms upstairs. 2 stairways, like one from the kitchen going up and one an open stairway where you came in the front. It's too bad that they just let this house go to pot. Yeah, because
LTC owns it?
LTC owns it. Nothing has been done to it since 1980 when the woman died that lived there, that Mrs. Hetzel. Well, not Mrs. Hetzel, Miss Hessel, Miss, yeah. Yeah, but that was fun to go through there, right?
It was interesting, I'll tell you.
And there was a summer kitchen, and in it was a huge dome. And we wondered what on earth. It was the smokehouse and the bake oven. And then behind it was a scalding kettle. So it was interesting to see. We thought maybe it could be a museum, you know, or something like that, but fat chance that won't happen.
Okay, and Kathy, maybe you can indicate what you belong to that was interested in this building.
Oh, the Township of Centreville and the Village of Cleveland has a new committee, and it's called Culture Resources. And they're trying to, you know, scoop out places, if there's anything that we could save, archaeology places, like I think I called Dorothy about the Indian mound that they found. Still, anybody know where the John Mill farm was? Anybody help me out on that? No?
Okay.
I could if my dad was alive.
Yeah.
He worked for Mills.
Oh, he worked for Mills, yeah, but you don't know where the farm was either. Well, if anybody hears anything, let us know, okay?
Like I said, it's near BJ's.
That's what you thought, near Mrs. Buddha's place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess this will be the...
What's next week, next time?
Next time it's going to be St. John, St. Peter Church.
Okay. And I guess you can thank everybody one final time, and we'll call her a night.
Thank you. I thank you all very much. And would you like to have a card next month?
A card?
A card, yeah. I mean, I'm talking to the Steins and to the Lacroix. And Victor?
Very good.
Should I bring the German book along again? Or?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because
More
Reverend Cook
pictures,
will
the
be
better.
here and he can translate it. Yeah, he can translate it. So, okay, yeah, that'd be very good. And anything
Okay.
else that anybody knows, so thank you again.
Okay, from the videographer, I appreciate all your efforts this evening. You worked out very well. I always enjoy this, and we hope to see you all come for the next meeting. Thank you, everybody.
The parsonage.
So received from the Manitowoc County Historical Society and Historic Preservation Achievement Merit Award of Merit, and she deserved
Okay,
it.
then I'll put your two names on.
And it was quite an evening. We're glad that she was the recipient of such a great award. And again, tonight is
And I know Bobby told me
February 13th,
the township
2006.
on that farm.